Hello, my name is Steve Ward with Mercedes-Benz of Linden. We're located down here in Utah County at exit 273. Today I want to go through some of the operations of the all-new S-Class. So this would be 2015 and on. A few differences in the 15 versus the 16 models in the center command unit. I'll try to point those out a little bit. This is just a simple overview to help you understand some of the ins and outs of your vehicle. I think the S-Class is one of the finest automobiles that money can buy right now. I'm around a lot of cars. We sell a lot of these S-Classes here at the dealership. We have different brands come in and out. And I'll tell you what, the feedback that I get, the opportunities I have to drive the various vehicles, absolutely one of the finest vehicles that you can buy today. But along with that, some of the things can be very complicated and very intimidating. If you notice right away, we've got two great big screens right here. We can control, we can manipulate these screens, and it can be a little bit unnerving to be able to try to operate this car, in my opinion. There are some shortcut buttons, but not a lot. A lot of things are menu driven here from our command controller. If you notice right here, we've got some shortcut buttons, and these are what I would recommend getting used to. We can set some favorites. If I push this star button right here, if you notice up here on the screen, I can set things that maybe I would use a lot of the time. We can also move these things around and kind of customize them to our needs, and do different different shortcuts that would help us access and get to where we want to go. You can see that I can move the positions around. I can select even stations and things that I want to put in there, and I can drop them back down into the sequence there that I might use them. Now, right here also I've got some of these other buttons, like this one right here is going to bring up our vehicle settings, with seat adjustments, the 360 camera. I can turn that on at any time. I've also right here got a back button. I can hit this back button. It brings me back to my previous screen. Here's the operator's manual. I think this is pretty important. The nice thing about it is every car comes with a manual, but nobody really breaks it out. But what's nice about this owner's manual is that I can access it while I'm sitting in the car. I'm going to show you again how I got there. So again, this little car button brings up vehicle settings, and now within vehicle settings, each one of these is a menu, and then if I click on it, I have sub-menus. But right here in the main menu, I've got Operator's Manual. I go ahead and I select the Operator's Manual, and it's going to come up and load that data. It's going to ask us if we want to see images, if we want to see here's highlights, bookmarks that maybe I've searched, visual search. I can pick on this. And we can talk about the interior. We can talk about how to set up different various parts of the vehicle. And then of course I can pick on any of these. It's going to drive down to different. Here's hands-free access, for example. It shows me safety information. Don't get your hands and feet caught in there. Here's how do we operate it. So it's very intuitive, very easy to click through these things, and be able to just understand how things work. So very cool. Right here, I hit this back button again, and I can go back to each individual previous screen that I was at. Again, I can push this button, take me back here to this main systems settings. And one of the other things that I'm going to go back again, if I hit this again, it brings me up here. If you notice vehicle settings, now I can go ahead and I can select vehicle settings. And now I have other features that I can set up. For example, acoustic lock. Do I want acoustic lock on? So I can select yes. I want that so when I lock the door, it kind of gives me a little feedback, a little honk honk of the horn. Belt adjustments, I can turn that off and on. That's that little, that's the part where it kind of tugs on your body every time you get in. Everybody's body mass is a little different. Do you want the mirrors to fold in? Locator lighting, yeah, we want those to be on. And then it says, do you want it to lock as we go? Yeah, we want when we start to drive off, we want that. How long do you want this delay of the lights to happen, etc. So we can go on. We can pick out all of these different things. The cool thing about the S-Class also, we've got ambient lighting. We can say, okay, what's the intensity of the light? We can pick colors of the light. A lot of different things that we can do, which is kind of fun with the S-Class. Now, if I move down here, we have other shortcut buttons. So again, here's telephone. So if I hit the telephone button, it's going to bring you right up to the telephone. We connect the device here, and it'll walk you through. We can search for the phones. It'll walk you through the setup process of getting your phone or iPad or whatever you want hooked up to this thing, because it'll have Bluetooth streaming audio as well. But right here, once our phone is set up, we can bring up contacts, and we can put numbers in there and make our phone work. Here's media. I can bring up different media. So right up under here is your CD player, and other media devices that we might have would be an SD card. Of course, if we turn, plug it in, you have an some kind of an Apple device that you want to plug into that, and you've got a couple of those that you can use. Bluetooth streaming audio from your phone, your iPad again, and we can do that. Again, it's all simple carousel menus that are working off of these shortcut buttons. If I hit radio, it brings me up to the radio. Again, it's going to carousel through. Now, one trick to the S-Class is, in our previous cars, if you're familiar with Mercedes-Benz, it would show 3 different sections here, tiers of menus. And it used to be that you could just push the controller down and the menu would pop up. Well, with the S-Class, we're going to pull that back. And now, if you notice, when I pulled the controller back, I've got the tiers back, and I've got different menus. And as I pick on those, I've got different sub-menus that are going to come up and give me options. So that's kind of one of the tricks that can be a little bit confusing, is if you don't see the menu, just pull back on the controller and your menus. So no menu, I'm going to go ahead and pull it back, and boom, there's your menus. And then on the top, of course, it's kind of like you're familiar with. We can jump around to wherever we want to go. So here's navigation. Of course, if I select the navigation button here, then I can see my maps. If I scroll through this, I can scale the map. I can also use voice control for all these functions as well. If I push this button here, zoom in. Of course, I can push this button again and set my destinations. Enter destination. And if you notice right here, it gives you a list of commands once I push that.
Cancel.
This button right here is going to be a shortcut button to your massage seats. And if you notice, you've got different options here on the seat as well. And we can turn all of these on for both the drivers and passengers. Now, if I want to go down and select something, I can move this down, and now I can spin the controller and set the intensity. If I push the controller over, then I go over to the passenger seat, and I can set up the whatever I'm working on there. And then you can see lumbar, different shoulders, and so you can really set these seats up to be very comfortable. Dynamic multi-contour seats, that's when we can turn those on. Again, I just bring the controller down, and I come over and I select, and that's going to give me the intensity of the bolster. So what happens with multi-contour seats is when you go around corners and stuff, the bolsters will move and kind of bolster you up. So those are the shortcut buttons. We've got a few other buttons right here. This button here, if I push it, it raises and lowers the vehicle. So if I'm in deep snow or I want to jump a curb or something like that, then it's going to raise up the vehicle. Right here I've got sport and comfort mode, so I can have a nice soft suspension, or I can have more of an aggressive less body roll. Sport and economy is going to adjust the shift points in the transmission. This is a super fast car, bi-turbo, it's fun to drive, and it's got plenty of torque and power with those twin turbos. And again, that's the back button. Now here's our volume here. This button will turn off the complete command system. This A right here will turn off the Eco Start Stop. So right now, when you look at or when you stop at stop signs and things like that, the engine will turn off. If that drives you crazy, you can bypass that by simply pushing that button. Now here on the volume button, you can turn this up and down, and it's nice to have it right here because we're not reaching across the panel again. You can rest your hand comfortably here. With the touchpad here, we can move everything here with the touchpad, but we also have access to our volume and everything here. If I push down on it, it mutes. That's a mute button when I push and make contact there. Now, as we're moving across here, let's talk about a couple other things right here while we're in the center. Feel these. Just feel the. You can feel the click, the feedback. You can push this button out for the airflow, and you can feel the feedback. Again, just fit and finish, polish. Everything about this car, absolutely dynamite. The clock up here in the center. Now, these buttons here are all going to work your air conditioning and heating systems. Now, of course, I can just hit auto over here. I can adjust my temperature. It's all showing right up in here. I can adjust the fan speed here. And I can work it this way. This is recirculation. So all of these, this is for, kind of from my side. This is going to be for the passenger over here. I can turn off and on the AC here. But if you notice, there's also a menu button right here. Now, if I push the menu button, it's going to come up here and allow me to control everything here with the command controller. So I can come up here and I can manipulate things. This car is equipped with the air balance also, where you can put perfume in there, and I can set how much ionization's going on. Coming through here. All of that is driven off of this menu here. So these are basic settings, but down here I can drill a little bit deeper, or I can just control everything with my command controller if you're used to it that way. Now, as we move over to this screen, these buttons here are going to control everything over here. So it's just remember that everything in this section here is going to be using and manipulating this screen. All the shortcut buttons, whether you use the touchpad, it's all going to be in this screen. Now, when I come over to this screen, these buttons on the steering wheel are going to control here. So, for example, if I hit this home button, it comes up with some menus, and as I hit those, I've got sub-menus, and I can use my up and down arrows to kind of go through there. Say, for example, I want to set my trip. I can say OK. I can go down to yes, and now I've set my trip. I can go up here and I can look at different fuel mileage. I can actually, in real time, monitor my driving habits. I can look at the range before I run out of fuel, etc. Now I can go back over to here, and maybe I want to look at navigation through the screen here. Well, it's going to give me a compass and tell me kind of where I'm going that way. I can hit this back button here, takes me back one level. Maybe I want to display my radio stations here. I can do that, and I can scale through different radio stations. Perhaps that I want to look at my CD or my Bluetooth streaming audio, etc. Telephone. Maybe I want to look at my telephone numbers, and I can actually dial numbers from this screen instead of the command controller. Assistance. So, for example, this car has Distronic. I might want to see my Distronic screen all the time. It's going to show the cars in front of us. The radar is going to show that in front there, and how far away I am. This is going to tell me when my next services are due. Settings. I can go to settings here. There's some driver's assistance settings, heads-up display. So I don't know if you can see that or not in this, but this car has heads-up display. So I can hit heads-up display, and I can control the brightness and the position and those kinds of things of the heads-up display, and I can move it around and manipulate it that way. Anyway, so remember, this sets up this, and it also gives you a choice of what you want to look at. Because I have heads-up display here, I might not want to look at the speedometer here. I might want to look at my telephone or navigation or something like that all the time instead. Now, as we work our way across here, there's some buttons right here that you need to be aware of. And I love the fact that we've got a hard button here that I can hit, and I can get my 360 camera anytime I want by hitting that. Now, it is speed sensitive or rated, so I mean, if you're going more than 15 miles per hour, it's probably not going to display there. This is a button that you can turn off the parking sensors. So if you're in a parking garage or something, they're going off and it's bugging you, just hit that button. Another two buttons to be aware of here is the active lane tracking and steering assist buttons. So if those are not on, then you're not going to have this active pull-in if you're wandering over the lanes. So you want those on. Steering assist, actually, will drive the car somewhat autonomously in cruise control mode. But you got to make sure that button's on. Now, right over here is the cruise control. So this button will put us in. We pull it back to set it. We push it to stop it. We've got a soft click down or up will move us 1 mile per hour increments. One click either way is 5. But if you notice this has the this tronic. So as I turn this button, I can set the distance that the radar is going to slow me down or stop me from the vehicle in front of me. That is the cruise control. Multi-function steering mechanism here. So it's our blinkers. It's our lights, high beam forward, a flash here, back, and then it also works our windshield. You can keep it on our wipers, and we can just keep it on number 1 there, and it will just automatically turn on the windshield wipers. And if I push this button on the end, it's going to shoot the water. And if you notice on the S-Class, look how cool that is. The liquid actually comes out of the wiper blade. It's not coming down out of the bottom, which is pretty cool. Over here, I've got heated seats. I can hit those for different intensity, and I've got my ventilated seats here. We can turn off the right side there. Here, if you notice that each side of each part of this seat here looks like a seat. The top one's going to elongate the seat, and I can adjust that. And then you saw over here in the center screen how we could change the lumbar settings. Of course, door locks, unlocks here. Now, another thing that's kind of tricky that you got to figure out here is that these buttons are multi-purpose too. So, for example, I push this, and it rolls down my window, right? And I can roll it back up. But if I do it again, then it brings up the privacy shade. So that's multifunction there as well. You can lock out the back windows there. This is your light settings here. So we can override it here and manually turn on the lights. If you keep it in auto, it's going to be all right. Over here, you've got some different park lights positions. If you're parked in in an alley or something like that, it'll keep one of our partial light on in the back. There's a little stubby one right back here, and if you notice, I don't know if you can see it. You see the light came on there. That means that's for the heated steering wheel, and this is the same button that moves this up and down. If your car is equipped with additional heating packages, when you turn on the heated seats, like this one, the surfaces are getting warm. With my heated seats on, armrests and things like that is pretty nice. Now, another little secret here is, if you notice, I've got this this little door here, and if it's open, you just simply push this, and it will bring that door open or closed. And then again, remember, your CD player is hidden back here, so simply just push that. Got some controllability here. Some of this the S classes you can use this button to control the headrest and in and out. And in others you have a manual button. I'm going to take a look at this application here we have from Mercedes-Benz. This is our delivery app, and it shows some of the things that it would like us to talk about with the car. And we've gone over most of these things. So the command controller is this thing in the center. Favorite buttons right here, the star, where we can kind of program and manipulate a few things around. Instrument clusters, driver's assistance, hard keys. We've talked about these and these hard keys. Climate control, air balance up here with these buttons. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is that this car has what they call extended mobility tires, or run flat type tires. You can run them 50 miles an hour for 50 miles. And the nice thing about that is if you're in a sketchy area or part of town or on the freeway or something, you can continue to drive on that vehicle. Seat settings and comfort package. We've talked about those and how to adjust those. Setting the navigation, you can do that here. If we go back over to navigation, we talked about using voice control in the menu, but again, I can pull this back, and if you notice, my sub-menu there says destination, and on the destination I can say address entry, and then I can enter in everything manually. Now there's some other options that you can do if subscribing to Embrace to send up things from your phone